Success is often born not in the silence of an office, but in the right conversation with the right person. A single acquaintance can change the entire course of your life, if you are ready for it. Social capital is not about the number of contacts, but about the depth of connections. If this thought resonates with you, subscribe. The most valuable is yet to come. For some reason, books about success rarely mention one important thing. Almost no one says that the path upward is not just about self-discipline, education, or financial literacy. It's also about people. That's right. Success is a team sport. And here's the paradox. You can be incredibly talented, hardworking, even brilliant. But if you live in an environment that doesn't support you, doesn't motivate you, doesn't spark your desire to grow, your potential will most likely remain dormant. Now ask yourself, whose voices do you hear most often? Who has access to your attention? Who influences your decisions, directly or subtly? When I first heard the phrase, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with," I didn't agree right away. But then I looked back at my life. I considered who I spent my days and evenings with, who I shared my doubts with, who I told my ideas to. And you know what? It turned out that my level of discipline, my habits, even my income, almost perfectly reflected the level of those people. It was like a mirror, not in the bathroom, but in real life. And this mirror didn't lie. I began searching for a different environment. I didn't wait for ideal people to show up. I became the one who looked for them, who built relationships instead of just making acquaintances. And that became the turning point. Because social capital isn't about how many contacts you have in your phone. It's about trust. It's about who thinks of you when an opportunity arises, who will say a kind word about you at the right moment, who will share knowledge, not envy, who will lift you up, not clip your wings. Think about it. In a world where everyone is fighting for attention, the strongest currency is no longer time. It's connections. But not shallow ones. Not the, "oh, we met at a conference" kind. Deep ones. Built on shared values, mutual benefit, and ongoing support. People who don't just know you, but genuinely want you to succeed. And you, them. Here's the interesting part. Each of us can build that kind of network. It doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're just starting out or already have experience. Social capital isn't measured in degrees or likes. It's measured in impact. And today we're going to talk about how to build that impact. How to become the kind of person others want to connect with. How to surround yourself with people who lift you up instead of dragging you down. And most importantly, how to do it without coming across as fake or manipulative. Because you know what? People can sense insincerity, but they're even better at sensing authenticity. And when you build relationships not for personal gain, but with the awareness that together we can achieve more, that's when true influence begins. And in this video, closer to the end, I'll give you practical tools, how to build, maintain, and grow your network so that it works for you at any age. But for now, let me ask you, who's in your circle of 5 today? I often said, you can't rise while staying among people who drag you down. And that's not an insult. It's an observation. A person who constantly hears, "this won't work," starts to believe it. Even if deep down, they know they're capable of more. Environment shapes belief, and belief shapes action. So, if you want to change your life, start with the people you live it with. I remember when I was young and working at a direct sales company, I was surrounded by all kinds of people. There were those who complained all day about the economy, the clients, the weather. And then there were those who said, if I'd made 10 more calls, the result would have been different. I'll try again tomorrow. The difference between them wasn't just in words, it was in energy. Once I stepped away from the first group, I started to grow. Not because they were bad people, but because we had different directions. Social capital is like a garden. If you don't care for it, weeds will grow. But if you plant wisely, water regularly, and pay attention, it starts to bear fruit. Ask yourself, whom do you water daily? Who gets your time, attention, and support? And who waters you? If the answer is silence, it's time to reassess your network. Many think networks are only needed in business, for sales, promotion, negotiations. But the truth is, we all live in networks, even those who deny it. You're looking for a job, and chances are someone you know will recommend you before you find it on your own. You're launching a new project. Friends and partners' support can be crucial. You're going through hardship. And a kind word at the right time can change the course of a day, even a life. What matters isn't just having connections, but having the right ones. Someone once told me, "Jim, I don't know how to meet people. It's just not in me." I said, "It's not a gift, it's a skill. You can train it." Here's how. First, learn to listen. A true listener is rare. Most people don't listen. They wait for their turn to speak. But when you're truly attentive, when you hear not just the words but the meaning, you become interesting. People are drawn to those who make them feel important. Second, build reciprocity. No one wants to feel used. If you only show up when you need something, the connection fades. But when you help others without expectations, when your support is genuine, that bond becomes strong. Because the best relationships are built not on benefit, but on trust. I'll never forget a man I met at a business event. He was quiet, didn't try to impress anyone, didn't hand out business cards left and right. But when he spoke, everyone listened. People knew him. They trusted him. And a few years later, I saw him launch a major initiative. Not because he had vast resources, but because people wanted to work with him. He had been building trust for years, and then it became his capital. Social capital is when your name enters the room before you do. When someone calls you with a big opportunity, not because you asked, but because they knew you're someone who can be trusted. And that kind of network isn't built through transactional favors for favors. It's built on reputation. And reputation is your number one capital. It's not made through bold claims. It's built through daily actions, consistency, honesty, and discipline. Of course, sometimes you have to let people go, and that's not about arrogance, it's about growth requiring renewal. You can't build a new level of life with old thinking, and old thinking often doesn't live in your mind, it lives in the people around you. Talk to skeptics, and you'll become one. Talk to those who believe in possibilities, and you'll start looking for paths instead of excuses. Mindset is contagious. I'm not saying to cut all ties. I'm saying separate your circle of closeness from your circle of influence. The close ones are those your heart is with, but influence, that's those who share your belief in growth. And if you want to grow, you need to learn to build that second circle, even if it's sometimes uncomfortable. Here's a practical tip. Do a weekly energy check. Who did you interact with this week? After which conversations did you feel inspired, and after which drained? Write it down, analyze it, and gradually build a new habit. Seek out people who make you want to act. It's not about short-term interest. It's about long-term influence, because who you're with is who you become. I like simple rules, and here's one of them. If you want people to want to work with you, be someone easy and reliable to work with. No ego, no overpromising. Just keep your word. Look people in the eye. Pay on time. Know how to say thank you. People don't just remember what you said. They remember how they felt around you. And if being with you makes others feel like they can breathe easier, like they want to become better, then you're already building social capital, even without realizing it. Sometimes people ask me, "Jim, where do I start if there's no one inspiring in my environment? If I don't know a single leader, a single entrepreneur, not one mentally strong person?" And my answer is always the same. Start with yourself. That's right. Become the person you wish you had beside you. Be the first source of strength, the example you'd want to look up to. Because here's the truth. Connections are like magnets. You attract what you are. If you're looking for responsible people, be responsible. If you want sincerity, be sincere in your communication. If you want to be among the disciplined, first bring order to your own daily routine. Social capital doesn't start with contacts. It starts with character. Your internal level determines the level of those who are drawn to you. I remember a guy at a seminar. He came up after my talk and said, "Jim, I listen to your advice, but I feel like it doesn't work. The people around me are lazy, unserious, with different values. I asked him, do you think the kind of people you're looking for want to hang around someone who hasn't changed yet themselves? There was a long silence. Then he said, so I have to be the first one? I smiled. Exactly. And then the others will show up, because influence isn't demanded, it's cultivated. One of the biggest mistakes is waiting for the right people. The right people don't come to those who passively wait. They're drawn to the active, the curious, the open, and especially to those who are growing, because growth is a language understood by those who are evolving too. And if you start investing in your own growth, you automatically become visible to those who think and act similarly. Where can you find such people? Where ideas grow, where people don't just talk, but learn, in book clubs, at seminars, in volunteer projects, in business communities. But even that's not the most important thing. The strongest connections often don't begin at grand events, but with small actions. Sometimes a single well-timed piece of advice is the beginning of a relationship that lasts for years. Sometimes support in a hard moment isn't just help. It's the foundation of real trust. Here's something else that's important. People intuitively sense who approaches them from a place of taking versus giving. If you want to build real connections, learn to be useful. Sometimes it's not about money or contacts, but simply attention, a book recommendation, advice, reliability in the small things. People never forget the one who made them feel valuable. I always taught, become so valuable that people want to mention you. It's a simple formula. Don't try to be interesting, be interested. Because when you're genuinely curious about others, you open doors others don't even see. Someone might say, but what if I'm not accepted in the environment I aspire to? That's a great question. Here's the key. Being accepted doesn't mean instantly belonging. It means showing up and staying. And over time, your consistency, your behavior, your example, they become your ticket in. Because in the long game, the winner isn't the loudest, but the most consistent. Social capital can't be bought. You can't win it in a lottery. It's built over years, but every year pays dividends. Because through it, you gain opportunities you could never create alone. You don't need to know everything. You need to know people who do. And to be someone who's worthy of their support. Now, a bit of practical advice. When you meet someone new, don't aim to get something. Ask yourself, what can I give? It's not always something material. It might be an idea, a smile, time, genuine interest. People remember those who made their day just a bit better. I've often said, the most valuable thing you can leave someone after a conversation is the feeling that they've become stronger. And that's what builds reputation. And reputation isn't a business card. It's the story others tell about you when you're not in the room. Ask yourself a rhetorical question. If tomorrow you lost all your resources, what would remain if you had no business, no money, no influence? Would there still be people who'd help you get back up? If the answer is yes, then you're richer than you think. If the answer is no, then it's time to start investing in the most undervalued asset, human connection. Because in the end, you know what's left when everything else changes? People, and who you were to them. There's another important level of social capital that people rarely talk about. It's the level of trust that doesn't require your presence. It's when people recommend you even when you didn't ask. When your name comes up in a conversation with the phrase, oh, that person is reliable. You can do business with them. That is real power. When your reputation works for you even while you sleep. But to earn that kind of trust, it must be deserved. And not once, but many times. Through small actions. I always said big opportunities come to those who know how to handle the small ones responsibly. If you promise to call, call. If you agreed to meet, be on time. If you said you'd do something, do it. Simple actions that are rarely seen, and that's exactly why they're so valuable. Once a man told me a story. He worked at a bank in a mid-level position, just an ordinary employee, but he always helped newcomers, even when no one asked. He taught them, explained things, supported them. Years later, One of those newcomers became the CEO of a major company. And you know what happened? He called this very man and offered him a position that changed his entire life. Not because he had the best resume, but because he left a lasting impression through his actions, his attitude, his example. Social capital is an investment in the future, and the best part, it always pays off. Not always immediately, not always from the people you expect, but it returns. As the saying goes, sow kindness even in the desert, the rain will come. What you plant in people will grow at the right time. Now I want to speak to you directly. Maybe you're thinking, but what if I already have connections and I don't know how to activate them? How do I make those relationships come alive instead of just being phone numbers? Here's a simple but powerful answer. Start taking initiative. Reach out, say hello, offer help. Real energy starts circulating when you initiate the motion. One of my favorite principles is input energy creates output energy. If you want people to remember you, remind them of your presence, not with requests, but with actions. Share something useful. Call not to take, but to thank. Trust me, it stands out in a world full of noise and impersonal exchanges. And another thing, become the kind of person who connects others. If you see that two of your contacts could benefit from knowing each other, introduce them. It's a powerful gesture. A person who helps others grow is always in demand, and it's one of the fastest ways to elevate your position in any environment. I remember once being at an event where I barely knew anyone. Instead of waiting for someone to approach me, I made the first move. But not with the usual, "What do you do?" Instead, I asked, "What inspires you to grow in this field?" The conversation took a completely different turn. Deeper, more sincere. People open up when they feel you're not playing a social game, but genuinely seeking something real. In the art of influential relationships, superficial masks don't work. Presence works. Attention works. Authenticity works. People aren't looking for perfect. They're looking for real. And when you enter a conversation not with a mask, but with intention, they feel it and want you around. And one more thing. Your connections aren't just about the people outside. They're also about your inner dialogue. If you constantly devalue yourself in your thoughts, if you let the fear of what will they think block your actions, you become your own obstacle. Social capital begins with the internal permission. I belong among the strong. I have something to offer, and I'm ready to grow. Because in the end, we all teach each other, not through lectures, but through example. And your life is the strongest argument. You don't need to prove you're worthy of respect. You need to live in a way that makes it obvious without saying a word. So, who will you be for your circle? Someone who pulls others down, or someone who leads the way? Remember, your environment is a mirror, and you are the artist. Every day you're painting the picture others will one day call your circle. And now, it's your time. Because knowledge without action is just information. And that's not why we're here. We're here to turn insight into transformation. So I want to invite you into a simple yet powerful self-assessment practice. And I ask you, don't listen to this part passively. Grab a sheet of paper, open a notes app, because this will be your personal roadmap for change. I'll ask you a series of questions. For each one, rate yourself from 1 to 10. 1 means, I really struggle with this, and 10 means, I feel confident and consistent in this area. Be honest, not for anyone else, for yourself. So first, how supported do you feel in your closest circle? Do the people around you truly lift you up, or perhaps keep you stuck? Next, do you regularly initiate connections with new people who inspire you and challenge you to grow? Now think, when was the last time you supported someone in your circle? Not out of gain, but genuinely, without expecting anything in return? Also, rate your ability to maintain and grow relationships. Many people can make new contacts, but few can keep relationships thriving over years. Next, your openness. How easy is it for you to let new quality people into your circle? Or are you closed off, holding only to old friends because it feels safer? Another question. Are you good at building reciprocity in relationships? Do you take more than you give? Or do you give everything but never allow yourself to receive? Evaluate your reputation as well. If you weren't in the room, what do you think people would say about you? And more importantly, does that match who you want to be? Here's another. Are you comfortable asking for help? That's also part of social capital. Because real strength is not about carrying everything alone. It's being able to say, I need advice. Now, how often do you nurture old connections? Do you reach out to people with whom you once had a strong bond but lost touch due to the pace of life? And finally, perhaps the most important question, how well do you serve as a source of support for yourself? Because if there's emptiness inside, no amount of external connections will fill it. Now you have your answers. Look at them. Look closely. Find the one weak spot, the area with your lowest score. That's your growth point for this week. Don't try to fix everything at once. Just one step, every day. Now, create a micro-action plan. What will you do today, tomorrow? What small but specific action can you take to improve that one area? Maybe you'll call someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Maybe you'll write a thank you message. Maybe you'll register for an event where people who inspire you will gather. One step, one intention, and from that, change begins. Because social capital doesn't grow in the shadows. It grows in action, in sincerity, in repetition, and most of all, in the intention to not just know people, but to be of value to them. One step, one intention, and that's where change begins. Because social capital doesn't grow in the shadows. It grows through action, through sincerity, through repetition, and above all, through the intention to be not just an acquaintance, but of value to others. And if this video gave you even one idea worth reflecting on, share it in the comments. That's one more thread we can weave between us. I always say, the strongest connections are born not on stage, but in conversation. Give this a like if you feel this topic resonates with you. That way we can spread these ideas further. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already. Because each new video is another brick in the foundation of your new reality. And I'll be here to support you on that journey. There are things we cannot buy, bola, and those are exactly what define the quality of our lives. Among them are trust, respect, and deep relationships. You won't find them on sale, but you can grow them gradually, intentionally, daily. Just like a farmer grows a harvest, not hoping for miracles, but acting with faith. I've lived long enough to see this. The most successful people aren't always the ones who had the best start. They are the ones who learned how to maintain connection with others, with their values, with themselves. Because influence isn't measured by follower count or the loudness of your voice. It's measured by how people speak of you when you're not in the room. And if you're still listening to me at this point, It means you're one of those who isn't looking for easy answers. You're seeking depth. And that in itself is already part of the journey. Because as I always say, don't strive to be a person of success. Strive to be a person of value, and success will find you. Today, you didn't just receive ideas, and you received a challenge to begin seeing your circle not as a coincidence, but as a result, and to build it with intention. Because in the end, your life isn't just what you do. It's also about who walks beside you. Be careful with your circle, but not closed off. Be selective, but not arrogant. Don't seek perfect people. Seek genuine ones. And remember, those who support others never remain unsupported. And as I often say in my talks, you are not alone. Just be the person you yourself would have wanted to meet on your path, and life will take care of the rest. See you in the next video, and may your network grow alongside you.